Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Some Dumb Guy here, and welcome to episode number 11 of SumDumWatch, where I chronicle what I have watched for this week from my physical media library, as well as any theatrical viewings that may apply. This is episode 11, which is for the week of December 9th through December 15th, which just so happens to be today. And we're going to go in for a brief one this time because there's not a whole lot to share. That's either good or bad, depending on how you look at it. But let's get the ball rolling. Starting out with a continuing journey from my Frank Capra at Columbia collection. This is now the third film from that collection that I've watched, and consequently my third silent film I have watched. This one was a delight. This one is called The Way of the Strong, and was far more involved and almost complex in regards to, I guess, my expectations of what a silent film would be. Now, so far, all three have been love stories at their core. This one, although not necessarily any longer, had something more to it. And in that regard, I mean kind of gangsters, bootleggers, hijackers, thugs, high-speed police car chases, fights, shootouts. Nothing I had seen before. Now, granted, my experience with silent films isn't huge. This is only the third. But the first two were much more small-scale, quaint stories. This one, far more involved. I was kind of surprised in the sense that just overall, the way this one played out. Got some elaborate makeup for one of the lead actors here. And if this is Mitchell Lewis, I should have looked all this stuff up, but I believe this is Mitchell Lewis, and this should be Alice Day. Elaborate makeup to make him a hideous-looking man who's afraid of any mirror he sees, which he destroys. He's a hijacker, runs a crew of hijackers who rob bootleggers. He has a little club in which he sells the alcohol he steals. And initially, I thought this gal was going to be the lead actress, and it turned out not to be. It turned out to actually be her. But this is a complicated story in the sense of switching loyalties and showing opposite sides of people who on their surface might be one way, whether it be cruel or innocent, and flipping that on its heel. I don't want to go into too much of the story on this one because this is one that I think could actually be spoiled should I talk too much about it. And I've got a visitor here. Oh, come here. Anyway, say hi to Sugar. Sugar is here. She's happy. She's purring. She probably doesn't want to be held, though. She's very picky about that. But it's one that I would probably recommend so far the most out of the three that I have watched in this collection, for its complexity of character and some development, some arcs, which were interesting. One didn't make any sense, but it was there, right? And it's a movie that looks really good on Blu-ray, with the exception of a few very short scenes that were blurry and grainy. But overall, this was a beautiful film. Very well made overall, and I appreciated the escalation of its craft. So if you haven't had a chance to see this and you're open-minded to silent films, The Way of the Strong gets some dumb recommendation. Next up, we have a rewatch for me, and this is season 1 of House of the Dragon on 4K. This is a rewatch for me in preparation for season 2. I didn't enjoy this the first time I watched it, and in all honesty, I can't say that I enjoyed it any more the second time around. I still have issues, and I've mentioned this before, with the similarity of character names being difficult for me to keep track of. Throwing that in with several time jumps over the course of a 10-episode season made keeping those names straight with faces that much more difficult. In first season alone, there something like 30 years total, I think, covered from beginning to end. It's just too much for me. I understand there's a lot of people who absolutely adore this season and respect them for it. It obviously has its pluses. It's my own shortcoming, I think, maybe, that I am just not really able to tie it all down to keep track. And I get really confused, almost like I need to have a glossary or something at hand that I can reference with the similarities of the names of some of these characters. I'm trying to remember which one is which, and then, like I said, to have their faces change from one episode to the next, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely off. It's definitely off. So struggling with that one. But as I said, I was rewatching that in preparation for, which I am now in the midst of. Just finished episode 3 of season 2, also on 4K, House of the Dragon. And this is going to be another prime example of what I just spoke on, because I could be way wrong here, but having gone, I think maybe even the same day or one day after finishing season 1, I dove into season 2. And I swear there was more recasts for some of these actors and actresses, particularly the younger characters. And I don't understand that. So I'm that much more lost than I was before. And I'm going to struggle here to make an example, I think, but particularly the characters of, and hopefully I get this right, focus, Aemond, Prince and son of Alicent. It's not focusing here. He is the prince with the eye patch, the one eye, and his brother Aegon, who is king or pseudo-king, I guess, depending on where your loyalties lie. I'm under the impression that Aemond, the king, is the older of the two brothers. Now, without going onto the Internet Movie Database and actually looking up these two actors, I swear Aemond looks considerably older by 10 years or more than what is supposed to be his older brother. And I find that really disorienting. But I'm reserving judgment. I'm only 3 episodes out of 8 into this season, and I'm not going to speak too much onto that. Lastly, for the disc-based stuff, still plugging away my nocturnal visits to Star Trek Enterprise complete series. I am on season 3, episode 12. So basically reached the halfway point of this season. Still loving it. I think season 12 now, because I'm prone to putting this on when I go to bed, and depending on how tired I am, I can make it 30 seconds, I can make it 20 minutes, I can make it nowhere at all. I think I'm still on night 3 of trying to get through that episode. And to wrap this episode up, theatrical viewings for this week. On Wednesday, the 11th, excuse me, I had to travel a little bit for this, because despite my local theater in town showing trailers for the film, they never actually exhibited it. And I found out that, hey, it's announced there's already a date for coming to Blu-ray, so I looked it up, and I was like, well, wait a minute, this thing came out over a week ago. So I did a general search, and I found a theater that was playing it 2 cities away. And it's like a 25-30 minute drive. Now, I understand to many of you that may not be much, but to put it into context, for me to travel from home to this particular theater, I had to drive past, basically, 5 theaters between me and it. I have 2 theaters in the town I live in. The bordering town next over has 2 theaters that I can go to. And then the town that I actually ended up going, it also has either 2 or 3 theaters, one of which I had to pass by to go see this film. And it's kind of unnerving to have to do that. Plus, this particular theater charges more for its tickets than I'm accustomed to paying too. But if we can get some focus action going here, we have The Return. This is starring Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche. It is promoted as a Greek story of part of the Iliad, where King Odysseus returns to his island kingdom of Ithaca after several years of being gone, after the several years worth of the Trojan War, to find his kingdom in complete disarray, his wife about to remarry and choose a new king, and him coming in anonymously into his own land and seeing it from an outsider's perspective and what has happened, and make plans to determine what to do after that. This is a really well-made film. It's not overly engaging. This is akin to what most of you who are into this kind of thing would be used to as far as independent film. Cinema, as it is, in its finest. And it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. It may be one that I end up adding to my physical media library. The next one, I will not be. Now, I had only tentatively heard of this film a few days before going to see it, and I discovered that it was in release in my search to go find The Return. And I ended up having to go to the exact same theater to watch it, so I went the next day, which was Thursday the 12th, and this one is focusing Werewolves, starring Frank Grillo, Katrina Law, and that is about it for actors. Lou Diamond Phillips plays a role in this one as well. This is a film that, about the most I can say of it, has an interesting premise, incredibly poorly executed. I would never want to watch this film again. Fortunately, it was short. It was under an hour and a half long. I have not seen The Purge, but I liken it to that kind of storyline where you just have one night of absolute insanity. The basic premise is that 1 year ago, prior to the start of this film, there was a supermoon. And this supermoon occurs when the moon is full and at its absolute closest orbit that it can reach to the Earth, triggered a mutation in every human being on the planet who was outside and exposed to moonlight, turned them into werewolves for as long as they were exposed. Over 1 billion people were killed that night. A year later, another supermoon approaches. The government has taken steps to try to deal with the pending crisis, to try to solve or cure whatever is causing the mutation. So experiments are being conducted, but the moon is coming and it is rising, and chaos ensues, as things tend to do. It was not a good movie. I don't even think it was a fun movie, so that one unfortunately can never even reach the point of guilty pleasure or so bad it's good. Not to me. And that's all I have to say about that. So, what do you think? Have you seen any of these? Do you have any opinions on these? Want to share? Do some typing down below. Comment below. Let me know. Share. Talk. Engage. We like that sort of thing around here when it happens. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week on SumDumWatch or in my next video, whichever comes first. Take care. Good night.